Can't do much about it, right? And I didn't see many of them in class too, so that was another thing. Many of people who've dropped, I didn't even see them in class. I only saw them on the exam day. Okay, so let me talk a little about what I'm going to do today and then go from there. So we are now going to talk about the third important principle of object-oriented programming. So you've done data hiding, that is making your data private so that it is not accessible outside, like throughout the world, wherever and whatever. So we don't make it public, we make it private, and then we provide accessor methods and mutators. Accessor means getters are called accessor, you're accessing data, and mutator means you're changing it. To change that data if it is allowed. If, so there's a big if. It's not that every instance variable will have a getter and a setter, right? Then we talked about encapsulation. A class definition is data and methods together encapsulated inside a definition, and it's called a capsule because it doesn't matter how you place them. The sequence doesn't matter. Therefore, it's a capsule. You can shake it and the definition is still inside there. And that was our second principle. Encapsulation methods, how I look and what can I do is put together inside a capsule. Okay, that's what encapsulation is. And now, lastly, we are going to talk about the third important principle of object-oriented programming called inheritance, right? And inheritance leads to polymorphism, right? So you can use polymorphism because you have inheritance. So that's our third important principle of object-oriented programming. So again, I'll explain what it is with relation to Java because I'm doing it in Java. So every object-oriented programming uses these three principles. It should be using these three principles. And where does inheritance come into picture is before we kind of start doing it, we should know why is it important? Why do we need it? So till date, you've been doing composition, not inheritance. So composition means that a class has objects of another class. For example, stock manager had an array list of stocks. You've used the string class. You use string class so many times. You use a string inside your class. That's a composition. Your class has a string object, right? Your class has a local date time object. So you've been using composition till now. You've been doing it from whenever you started working with two classes. Your card game, right? The card game that you wrote has an object of type deck, has objects of type array list. So that's has a relationship and it's called composition. And it's a loosely coupled relationship. Why loosely coupled? And it's better to be loosely coupled because loosely coupled means I use another class, but that other class can change its implementation and stuff. And all I have to do is I just have to know, oh, the interface has changed. I don't have to use this method, but this method. But the code inside the second class doesn't change because it is loosely coupled. All you're doing is using it. So when you use it, you have to know the name of the class, the name of the methods, and of course the parameters you pass and so on. That's it. So now if things change inside the other class, it changes in its implementation from a float to a double. All you have to know is, oh, the method will now return a double. That's all you're concerned with, right? So that's called loosely coupled, kind of. And it's better because in loosely coupled, you have classes that are not tied to each other, that change in one kind of creates havoc in the definition of the other. But inheritance is kind of tightly coupled. So is it a disadvantage? Yes, kind of. But then if you know how to use inheritance and there is no other way, that's the only possibility in an application, then you have to live with it. But they're tightly coupled because there exists a relationship of a superclass and a subclass in inheritance. So there is a class which is the parent class, and then there is another class which is the child class, which is inheriting everything from the superclass. So definitely, if something changes in the superclass in terms of implementation, variables change, their implementation changes, the subclass definitely is effective, right? So they're very tightly coupled, which means anytime I make changes in one class, I have to carefully go through all the other classes to see, oh, has it affected it in all these ways? So in a way, it's tightly coupled and is not really good, but inheritance is a big feature that makes sense in many, many applications. But there is a fine line. You have to say, do I need to use composition or do I need to use inheritance in my application? What will I need? What will work more better for me? And again, so there is you have to create a balance. Am I looking for tightly coupled, loosely coupled, or is the application just require inheritance? And inheritance is very common in many applications. For example, if you're a little okay in mathematics, if you talk about shapes, right? if I just say shapes, you'll say, oh, and you'll be doing graphics and so on at some point in your programming. You'll say shapes can be divided into 2D or 3D. Those are the two kind of shapes, 2D and 3D. Then under 2D, you could have a square, for example, a circle, a circle, a triangle. Whereas under 3D, you could have cubes, cylinders, spheres, right? This is your kind of an inheritance, a hierarchy in your shapes. But if you kind of think about it, there is some commonality in the shapes. So that commonality is put at the base, at the superclass, at the parent class. Now from what could be the shape? Maybe number of sides. Every shape will use some sides or something. Draw the screen. The draw method, yeah? The draw method will be common. Every time you want to draw a shape, every one of them needs a draw method, right? So there could be common variables and there could be common methods that can go here because they belong, everybody needs it. They could have a different definition which can be overridden, but there is a method. Then the 2Ds and 3Ds are different in their use also and in their what can you say, dimensions also, right? So you'll say, oh, let me do the 2D separately and let me do 3D separately. Though both are shapes, but they have their own properties. So you can kind of put them separate. And then under 2D again, some of these 2Ds will have something common between them. Area, perimeter, all these things, right? So there is a hierarchy where you will say, oh, inheritance makes sense because a 2D shape is a shape. And a square is a 2D. It's not a has a relationship, is a relationship, right? Similarly, a cube is a 3D object and a 3D object is a shape object. Similarly with employees, something that I'll do today. If you kind of think of employees or even students, right? You could take a student object because every student will have a student name, a student ID, will be attending a course and so on and so forth, right? Then students can be grouped into maybe full-time students and then maybe part-time students. Why? Maybe they differ in the number of courses they can take, right? The number of hours they have to be at, something. So you can kind of start grouping them. Maybe under full-time students, I can think, oh, full-time students can be graduates or they could be an undergraduate student or they could be doing a postgraduate course. Right? So again, there is a hierarchy here. Every full-time student is a student. And an undergraduate is a full-time is a student. So an is a relationship exists between these classes, you could say. So whenever you see a hierarchy like this, you need inheritance. And that's why we learn about inheritance. How do we kind of say, oh, this belongs here, but this can take its properties and its instance variables and add more to it or redefine them. Then what happens in this? So it can go on. So what I'm working on today will be an employee. So I kind of start small and then we'll go to the bigger picture. What I've done with employees is I've said, oh, employees can be of different kind. Employees could be working on an hourly basis. A company could have hourly employees. A company who could have salaried employees. They work on a fixed salary, right? A company could have commission employees. They're working on commission. They have gross sales and they have a commission rate and they do it. In the commission, you could further break it down. You could say they could have base plus commission. So they have a salary plus they also have a commission. So again, employees is a hierarchy, right? Every employee will have a name, an employee ID, a SIN number, a hire date, and so on. But hourly is different from a salary because in the hourly, I will need extra instance variables. How many hours did you work? What was your hourly rate? In a salaried person, I don't need that, right? So that's where you kind of inheritance comes into picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do employees, but I'll start small. I'll build this picture first. I'll build this segment first of a commissioned employee whose child or whose subclass can be a base plus commission. Once I've talked about inheritance, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what's public, private, protected, so on. When I've talked about all these things and you have a clear picture, then I'll kind of make the whole hierarchy work. Okay, then talk about abstract classes also. So between this week now and the next week, I want to cover inheritance, polymorphism, and interfaces in Java. I'm hoping I can do that so that I can leave the 13th week to do a few more couple things that I will need for my final exam. Okay, that's my target right now. Hopefully it will be done. Am I recording just to be sure? Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's start. So we'll create a new project and you can call it whatever you like. I'll just call it employee inheritance and we'll go from there. So we'll start with a new project. I mean, it's up to you what you've been doing and where you've been doing it. Oh, I already have one in Thursday. Okay, so I'll have to do something. I think I put the Tuesday's class also in Thursday. I keep doing that. I have no clue why. What am I looking at? Okay. Just give me 1 minute. You start creating a project and I'll join you. I just have it at the wrong place. There it is. Okay. Now that I have in the right one, I can create one. I'm calling it in employee inheritance because that's what it will ultimately lead to. So I'll start small and then go big picture. And if I could show you what I'm trying to build at the end, I mean, as I said, to the end I'll build it, is this. Right? That will be my picture at the end of the 2 weeks. So I'll start with one segment today. I will talk about commission, employee, and base plus because when you talk with two, it's easy to explain stuff, and then I kind of just improve it. Okay. Once you have the picture, I can give you the code for the other two, and you won't have to spend a lot of time on it. Then I can do more work next week. So once one segment is clear, the rest is okay. Please notice that the employee class is written in italics, whereas all these are normal. We'll talk about that too. Employee is an abstract class. We'll also talk about abstract classes in Java. Till now, we've been creating concrete classes. Concrete class means all methods are implemented and you can create objects of that class. But there comes a time when you may just need a definition just for the sole purpose of that it sits in the hierarchy and not instantiate it. Only use it for inheritance. Then the class is said to be abstract. I mean, it's abstract, not clear. Okay. Okay. So let's start. So this is the piece I'm trying to build. So we'll start with the commission employee. And before I start, definitely the first question that we do is, what are the attributes of a commission employee or an employee? Let's just say employee for now, because commission, the guy is working on commission. That's why I'm calling him or her a commission employee. So what are...
Sorry, the first class we create is called employee, correct?
No, we'll come to this next week. We are starting with commission employee. We'll go one segment, the small segment. Okay. We'll come to employee maybe at the end of the week today also. Who knows? I could do it maybe. Depends on how fast I can do. So when you talk about attributes of an employee, what come to your mind? Name?
Employee number?
Employee number. ID?
Salary?
Job title? Right? So all these things kind of come naturally. That's what you do. When you start a class, think of what are the attributes of my class? What should it have? Again, there could be more. A SIN number, like a hire date an employee was hired. So there is much I can do. But again, keeping it simple, I'll only use what I need because I can do a lot. So I'll definitely have an employee name. ID would be a good thing, but I'll have an employee name for sure. I'll have a salary. Now, instead of salary, for a commission employee, I'll say what is the sales the person made and a commission rate, and then I'll calculate the salary based on that particular values, right? So let's start with the commission employee. So as I said, I'm going to keep it small because I don't want to do a lot. Okay, having said that, let's why am I in the wrong one? Oh. Okay, so this is not the one. I just am in the wrong one. Let me just kind of close this and open the one I want. Okay, let's start. So we'll create a new class. And I'm calling it commission employee so that I can remember. Okay. So all your ideas that you gave for instance variables are absolutely correct. There's nothing wrong in any of them. But I'll keep it simple. And I'm kind of avoiding comments today. Not avoiding, I just don't have time to kind of put them in. So I'm relying that you can understand what's going on. So what are the instance variables that can go inside a commission employee? So we kind of keeping data hiding as our first rule, though it's a principle. I'm going to create a string for employee name. And all of these can be validated. Names can only have letters, and blank and so on using regular expressions now, but that's not the emphasis again today. Today, the emphasis is inheritance. So please bear with other things that I'm kind of neglecting, right? I'm going to keep a social security number just because we have it here. That's how it came to my mind, okay? And the more I have, the more work I'll have to do with my getters and setters. So I'm only taking strings because I won't have to validate it then, okay? And then, definitely, this is a commission employee. Let's take a double value. Let's call it gross sales, right? And take another private double value for commission rate. And the commission rate will lie between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1 means 0 and 100%. Okay, that's how we will do it. Now, do we need a salary field, or can I write a method that will calculate the salary? I'll go with a method. Why? Because it's simply commission rate multiplied by gross sales. And I'm keeping it as a method because the salary will be calculated differently for every kind of employee. So therefore, instead of keeping a salary variable because this person doesn't need it, the salaried person needs it, but the hourly person also doesn't need it. So I'll kind of say we'll always calculate the salary. So you can have a get salary or calculate salary or get earnings or something, which will calculate the salary. Okay, so those are my 4 methods. My first job, the constructor. So we'll go with the constructor. Oh, NetBeans can do it for me, right? What was it? What was it? Refactor?
Insert code. If you right click and hit insert code.
Just say right click and insert code. And then it gives me constructor. Oh, there it is. Okay. An employee with all 4 fields. Why should I even do this, right? Now it has done something that we usually don't do. We usually call these set methods, right? Now here is a little change. A couple of you have pointed out to me that when you call a set method, it gives you a warning. It says you should not be calling overridable methods in a constructor. Let me try to now explain this a little, what this means, so that you understand the concept, right? For now, I'll stick to what I've been doing. So I'm going to call a set employee method. Oh. I'm going to call a set employee name method, and I'm going to pass the name to it. So you know what? I should keep it actually. I'll keep this, but this is what we've been doing regularly, and I'll just do it and then we'll come back because I want to show you something. I want to show you the problems that can arise. So just keep them and then we'll come back. So take this. Write your methods, the setters and the getters also. And I'm not doing I'm not doing any validation at all. Set social security number. That's okay. So there it is. And this one, set gross sales. Oh, no. Don't remove it. Don't remove it. We'll have to come back. NetBeans is doing the right thing because it knows something which we will know today. And then, of course, none of these set methods exist, so we'll get them. That also comes from insert. I know it comes from refactor. Amanda, does it also come from insert? You can put them. Okay. I've always gone to refactor to do it, but if there is an easy way, why even go there? Okay, so my 4 set methods are ready. We've done this. But notice something. And NetBeans does this every time, but not right now. Let me put them in and then I'll show you. Right now it's warnings, which is what it is doing. So let's go insert code, getters and setters, and then select fields to generate getters and setters and generate. Okay, now the errors have gone because the set methods are available. Bring your mouse over one of these. Notice how it says overridable method in call constructor, and it is giving you a warning. Until now, we've always ignored it. I've always used set methods. That's what it is. Now today, since we are doing inheritance, we'll change our track a little. So we didn't do that from day one because I wanted you to understand the setters and getters, how important they are because you do your validation. But today I'm going to tell you how to take care of these warnings, how to work around these warnings. Okay, so you have your get employee name, simple method, set employee name, simple, nothing in these. You will do a little bit of validation here because it's a number. So if your gross sales is less than equal can do, maybe the person never made any sales, right? We are going to throw an exception. And I'll stick with the easy ones, the unchecked ones, so that I don't have to write all my clauses and everything. So I'll go with the illegal argument exception error today. And you can give a message saying gross sales needs to be greater than 0 or greater than equal to 0. No, it's greater than or equal to 0. It may happen the person hasn't sold anything at all, right? There it is. So I'm going to use illegal argument exception. What did I miss? New spelling. Illegal. There it is. Still not. What's wrong now? What does it say? Oh, argument, illegal. I'm going to stick to some that Java provides. What does it save me? I don't have to check them. Check them means checking means that this is an example of an unchecked one. So you don't have to add a throws clause to your signatures, nor do you have to handle it. Neither of them. And you've never been doing it in your, like for a while. I've started doing it in class. I've always created my own exception classes so that I can force you to write that throws clause. But here is an example of an unchecked exception in Java. Exception class, unchecked, checked. Unchecked means you can just use them. You don't have to do anything with them. Neither handle them nor say, oh, I'm going to throw them. The JVM will handle them, though it doesn't do it in a pretty way, but it handles them. So you don't have to worry about them. So again, I won't do this, more work for me. So that's my gross sales. So if the value is less than or equal to 0, I'm going to throw an exception, else I'm going to set it. We are going to do the same in the commission rate. I have an if statement here, and as I said, we'll take a value between 0 and 1 is what I've thought for 0 and 100%, but you can change it, like, and you can use 0 or 100, however you want to input it. So if I'm saying if my commission rate, maybe I should use constants, right? What is a problem? Less than 0 is a problem, or greater than 1 is a problem. I don't think they give more than 100%. Does any company give more than 100% commission rate? I doubt. No. I don't think they can give more. They could be giving less, but not more for sure. So anything between less than 0 or more than is a problem, okay? So throw a new illegal argument exception again. Please change the message. Commission rate must lie between 0 and 1. I'm going less, greater than 1. So 100% is given. You could change it to equal if you like. That's not a big deal. Okay, now what doesn't it like? There it is. Right, so I'm saying my commission rate is between 0 and 1. So it's a number. I could have used a float also. With floats, then you have to be careful when you pass it a value. It has to be like it has to have F with it. So I'll just leave it double. But it could be float. Double is not required at all. So the commission rate is between 0 and 1. Right. So if the commission rate is basically 0.95, which is 95% of what you're getting. Right. That's what it means. Kind of high, but anyway. So my methods are ready. We will have our usual 2-string method. Don't forget your. And just like, I don't want to kind of make it a mess, but we haven't used format a lot. I would like to show you that formatting can be done. It's not very easy to do, but it can be done. In the sense, format specifiers can be written. Okay, so we are going to return. You can do a return right here. We can go string.format right here. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of show you that you can do much more in it. So I'm going to always start with the %n with formats. Now give a %s. I'm just using something today with s. I'm saying 25s. What it means is that give 25 columns to it. I want to save a string in 25 columns. That's how it will display. So by default, I think it displays towards the left and blanks on the other. You can do a subtraction here. You can do a minus. I'll show you how it works. It's not a big deal, but you should just know about it. So I'll stop my format here so that I can start writing. So what do I want to put in the first S is the message employee name. I want to put that message. The first S will be replaced by, and you know what, I can put it on next line so that you can make a one-to-one correspondence. Okay, so this percentage minus 25S will be replaced by employee name. 25 columns will be given to it, and minus will put it on the, I forget now, is it right or left? It will just do the opposite, right? I forget what it is. We'll see as soon as we see our, so that's my first string. Then you want to show the name of the person. So that means another string. So percentage S, another string. So what is that other string? Get your name. Get the employee name. That's my second string. Third, I again want to give a message like a word. And what do we want to show? His social security number. Again, you can use just to show you 25S. These are very useful when you're trying to make a tabular structure. That's how they look nice. That's for it. So I'll show it to you in one example, and then I'll just put them in different lines, right? Because this is too much of work. And then what I want to put in this is social security number. Oh, that will take more space. Could be more than 25. Let's go a little more safe then. 30 maybe. Social security number is a big one. We'll see what it does, okay? In a minute, we'll see what it does. So I'm showing you two things. Now, the third thing, fourth one, is the person's social security number. So your get method. Get social security number. There it is, right? Now, what else? Gross sales and the commission rate. Now, if you want, you can go to a new line, like percentage N will take to your new line. And again, you want to print a message, and I'll use the same thing, minus 30S. Okay? Oops. And now that I know, I can complete it. Minus 30, percentage minus 30S. Okay, and that's, so the next line, you have the heading gross sales. So till now you were writing your headings here. I've just shown you that there is another way of doing it. As I said, just so that if you want to make something tabular or whatever. Next one is your gross sales. That's a floating point. That's a number. You can't use S for it. So we usually go percentage 0.2F. But for your information, if you want to give a space before it, you can give a total width also. 10.2F says 10 is the total width. Two places after decimal. So format specifiers can be done in many ways. It's not the end of it, like we've done simple ones. We'll again go percentage 30S. So this becomes very confusing. Yes.
If the 10.2F doesn't need D for double?
No. Real numbers are always F. D is for integer. Just so that you know, we won't use it here, but yes. So that's the next one. So the next one was, okay, so we get the gross sales here. So it kind of becomes very messy, but at the end of the day, when you're doing an application, you have much more time than I do right now. And then I'll say, what was it? Commission rate. Or you can just say commission rate. And if you want to change it into a percentage, you can do that too. You can show a percentage sign also and get the commission rate. And I'll multiply it by 100 so that it appears with a percentage. So if I have a number 0.95 and I multiply it by 100, it will show me what it is. Okay, so how many do I have? Okay, so there was the F and there was the heading. And after the heading, I have another percentage F. So commission rate, I'm just saying 0.2F to show you the difference between 10.2 and just a 0.2F. So again, see what is happening. First heading, employee name. Then comes the name. Then second heading, one is with minus, one is with plus, just to show you the difference. Then comes the heading social security number, and then comes the social security number. Go to a new line. Then comes the heading, gross sales, and then comes the value of it. Right now, to test whether it ignores it, if it is small or gives errors, you can do those small things. My aim is just to show you it's not more than 10, so I'm going 10. I'm not saying 5.2 or 4.2 because I don't know what it does. Does it ignore the total width if it needs more or gives an error? I'm not so sure. Those are small things which you can definitely check your programmers. And then comes the heading commission rate. And then I've shown the commission rate. right? So it's kind of messy, but I'll show you how it looks. So to see how it looks, we'll create a commission employee object and call it toString method, right? So that you know how it looks, and then I can ignore it. I don't have time to put into all this. It just takes a lot of time. So the commission employee is ready, but there is one important method that is missing. The salary. How do I get the salary of this person? So let's write a public method. It will return a double. Let's say get earnings or something. And will not take any parameters, because remember the gross sales and the commission rate is inside the object. And all it does is it returns. You can start using, when in your calculations, you can start using gets if you like. Some people do, I've seen it. It depends upon you. So get your gross sales and multiply by get your commission rate. And there it is. That's what it has returned. Ends by commission rate. Right, so the get earnings are also ready. Now I'm not putting the get earnings value in the string format, in the toString for a purpose, for a particular purpose, because I'll be overriding it. So I'll just kind of keep it like this because I know what I'm going to do in future. But you could always add your earnings in the toString. Let's see how it looks. So this class is ready. It doesn't have any compilation errors. Go to your tester and just do a small thing. Create a commission employee object. Call it CE. Go new commission employee. Okay, so what does it need? It needs a name. So you can give whatever name you want. It needs a social security number, whatever makes sense to you. And then the third one was, I think gross salary. I think salary came first, right? I'll use a number where it is easy to make a calculation, and then I'll go 15%. So 15% will be 0.15. Right? Now I can, since I've just written it's a 1.5, you can even do this. If after the commission rate, here is your commission rate, you want to show a percentage sign, just go percent twice, and a percentage sign will come up. And it will say 15%. Why? Because 0.15 multiplied by 100 will give you a 15%. Right? So I'm kind of manipulating my answers. That's all I'm doing. Now let's kind of go here and then do a print. That will call the and it's called C. You don't have to call .toString, we know that. Okay, let's run it. So I'm showing you how the toString works. I've not taken any incorrect data. I've given everything that was okay. No exception must be thrown because everything is okay. Let's run it. Where is the output? Build is successful. What am I missing? I said a system.out println. Why don't I see output? All I did was create an employee and said, give me its output. toString. There it is, toString. Can go wrong there. Return the string.format. That's strange. Oh, no, that's fine. Employee name. Yeah, everything is there. Why it's not running? Create a commission employee and just say, I don't have to do this, but that's strange that it is not giving me an output. Must be missing something for sure. It can't. What's happening? Like such a small one-line program and it's not giving me an output. Anything that I'm missing? Am I in the right one? Yeah, employee inheritance, employee commission employee. That is strange, isn't it? Like, what could go wrong in a one-line program? Okay, put your brains together. What am I missing? Create a new commission employee and say, spit it out.
I guess it should be showing the employee name and the mark.
Yeah, it should.
Mine's working.
What's wrong with mine then? And I thought maybe another program was kind of active. I went here and I said, run the file. Can't happen, right? That's all it should do. It should just run. It should just show the employee name and so on.
I'm getting unknown format version accepted.
Yeah, that's coming from here. You've made a mistake here, which could happen because it was such a long string, but there is no problem here unless.
You can try putting the string.format into a variable and then.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense, right? It's working for people who are doing it. What have I missed? Have I missed something, guys? I don't think so. That's really silly. Yeah, so what you've missed, Rick, is something is, therefore I say I don't use this a lot because you can make syntax errors here. Come on. That is very odd. Let's go back and let's try to do something like something else. Let me try to get his earnings. Okay, let me, you know what? It could be. This happened a couple of weeks back, which is really silly, but anyway. There. Okay, I did a clean build again. I don't know, for some reason, a few weeks back also, it was just misbehaving like this. Now see what is happening here. Notice the employee name. It has given it 30 characters for your information. That's 30. I mean, you can take my word for it. That's 30. And the employee name is coming towards the left. And look at the other heading. That's also 30, but there are blanks in the beginning and the value comes at the end. That's the difference between the plus and the minus. Where it places, is it right aligned or is it left aligned? That's what happens with a minus or a plus. But 30 tells you the size. Now look at the other one, the 10.21. That's a 10.2. Because I know it starts from here because gross sales was also given the same width, 30. So I know it starts from here. So that's 10.2. Okay, so 1,000 points, how many it has been taken? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 8 is the total width, 6 have been taken, there are 2 blanks in the front. That's a 10.2. And here, since I didn't say I want to give it, it exactly took what it wanted. 2 before, 2 after. So that's how you can make your answers pretty if you want. If it was a table, see how all these come together like here? Or if you like this style, they all come, all colons will come together, things like that. You can do that. That's what is happening with those 30s and minuses and pluses. So everything on the left, anything on the left. So what was the first one? Okay, so minus takes you to the left. So it's left aligned when you use a minus. And it's right aligned in text when you use, I mean, when you don't use a minus, it's a plus. You could put a plus, but we don't. And the 10.2, 10 is the total width and 2 places after decimal. And the 15.00 percentage is coming because I said 0.2f. So I just said how many after before, it just took as much space as the percentage sign. I got it from percentage. So you can make your output as neat as you like if you want. Right, and that happens, like it's very common. I'll kind of not do this a lot now just because it's a lot of time, right? So that's why, but that's how you can you take care of everything you want. You do it yourself. So minus to the left, positive to the right. 10 size, and I know that's the size. It starts from here. So it's taken 6 already. So I'm assuming there are 2 blanks before it. Okay, that was for your information. My commission employee is ready. My get earnings, I didn't see what it was, but we can always, I didn't include it. Just as I told you, there's a reason. We'll do a system out printer and you want to see his earnings or her earnings or whatever, mine. And then we'll call the, what was it called? Get earnings. I hope I don't have to keep doing this for every compile and build. And of course, this is not required. And I don't want you to use it because it's just there. It should be just there. Okay, now this is going to happen today then. I'll have to just clean and build every time. I have no clue why. There it is. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I should have given it a heading or whatever, but those are my earnings. That's all I got because 15% of 1,000 is a 150, right? And because there were no format or anything, it just showed me with 1 decimal place. But the answer is there, just to show you. It's a very untidy answer, but the answer is there. So my employee commission employee class is ready. I put in the instance variables I needed. I put in the toString method, and there was only one method that I'm going to work with, which is the getters and setters are not so important. I did validation with it, but that's what I did. Now let's try to build this structure. A base plus commission employee is a commission employee plus he gets some base salary, right? So everything is, he or she has a name, has gross sales, has commission rate, has a social security number, all the getters and setters are required, the constructor is required, has a get earnings, but earnings are a little different, right? But get has earnings and has a toString. So since there are some methods and some instance variables that its parent class or its super class already has, why would I rebuild the reinvent the wheel again. And that's what we do. We say in Java, if you have a class that is doing what you want to do, don't write the code yourself. Don't do it. Because that's what the whole concept of object-oriented programming. We shifted from the procedural paradigm to object-oriented paradigm for this very reason. Reuse of code, not copying and pasting. Reuse of code. So the code is available, you use it. You have the string class, it has all the methods, use it. Why should you write the method itself? There is a sorting algorithm for collections, collection.sort, use it. There is a binary search, a sequential search, use it. Don't write your code yourself. So since I have a class that has more than half of what I need, why will I copy and paste and create a new class and then say, oh, now there are two classes here. I'll extend from this class, okay? And to extend from the class, build a new class now. So right now it's just a normal, there's nothing different from what I've done till date, but the new things will start coming as soon as I create this class. So I'll call it base plus commission employee. I'm creating a new class. Please don't forget your conventions. No mistakes in conventions. I still saw a couple in the card game. And say a finish. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say that this class is a subclass of the other class. It's a child class. All I have to do is this. Extends commission employee. Of course, it will start giving you problems. Don't worry about it. Ignore it for now, right? But that's how you extend from a class. Till date, you have been extending, though you've never done it, but you have been extending. Every class in Java extends the object class. So this statement is right here, which you never give, but which Java puts on its own. It's always there. Every class that you write in Java, whether it's in the library or whether you write it, always extends the object class. Now, what has happened to base commission? Base plus is extending commission. Commission is extending object. So you have created a multiple inheritance. In Java, you can only say extends, and you can only extend from one class. You can't give comma, comma. If you've done any other language like C++, multiple inheritance is not available in Java. There is a roundabout for it, but not direct is not available. Why? Because when Java was created, and remember, Java is not that old, 20 years maybe, it came in 90s only. It's not an old language. So when Java came into the market, those programmers who were creating Java already knew things that were not right in other object-oriented languages like C++. So they said, we won't do it. So they didn't give that option. So we don't have an option in Java to extend from more than one class. You can directly extend from only one class, though you can have levels of inheritance, but only one class at a time can be inherited. So now base plus is inheriting from commission, and commission is inheriting from object. So base class can use everything of object and everything of commission. So it does get it, except that syntax-wise, you cannot say extends object, comma, commission, right? Which means this now. It means that there are already 4 instance variables in this class. All the 4 that the commission has. Anything extra that it needs, we'll put it here. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to only put the extra ones. So let's start with the instance variables. I don't have to repeat them. And I'll only put one more. Of course, I'll keep it private again. And just so that the name matches with what I had, I'll call it base salary. So this person has a base salary plus he or she also works on commission. That's the only instance variable it has. But keep in mind, this class has 5 instance variables. 4 coming from its parent. Object doesn't have any. So 4 coming from its parent and 1 its own. There are 5 instance variables. So if you work with an object of this kind, you can actually use the getters and the setters of the other class. You can. They're available. You can't use the private variables. So now we'll talk about then what happens, what should we do. But right now it has 5 variables. 1 its own, and 4 it can use indirectly through getters and setters. It cannot use it directly because private variables are not inherited. They are not. So you'll say, let's make them public then. We can, but what is the disadvantage? I've lost data hiding altogether. Public means they are available to the class and to any other class in the world. It can be used from anywhere, which is not what we want in object-oriented programming. So you should not go public. You could, but you should not. So between the private and the public, there is another scope specifier or access specifier called protected. And it kind of lies between the two. What does protected mean? Protected means that this variable can be used in the class. It can be used in the subclasses, whatever they are, classes that are in the same package. So it has a package scope, right? So the package is something that is not good for us, but otherwise we are okay. Superclass and subclasses, that's fine because that's what it is, right? That's what it means. I'm protected. Protected means protected in a sense of inheritance. So it is available in the superclass and it is also available in the subclasses to whatever level it goes. This extends, this extends, this extends, this. Plus a disadvantage in protected is it is also available in package. Any classes that you have in the same package can also use it. So now kind of think about it. In Java, we have packages, java.lang, for example, java.awt, java.util. I can't make protect, I shouldn't be using protected there because an instance variable of the string class should not be available to some other class in the same package. So therefore protected is also not used. So then you're only left with what? Private. But there is a third specifier. So you can go private, which we've been going till now. You can go public, which is a big no-no because it makes the data kind of everywhere. And there is a protected in between, which you could use if you're sure that there is no other program, no other code in my package at all. I just have the classes that belong to the package. But that's okay for an individual application. But from point of view of, say, Java language itself, you can't do that. It won't work because Java, all its packages have so many classes inside it, and not necessarily, they're not related to each other as per se. The math class and the string class are two classes in java.lang, but they're not related. So why would you allow the instance variables in the string class to be used in the math class? So protected is out, but it is for your information. So I'll stick with private. I'll keep it private. All you have to do in protected is change the word from private to protected. So let me show you how I can work. Now, the second big thing in inheritance, constructor. Constructors are not inherited. You can't inherit constructors. Methods are inherited and also public methods, not private methods. Nothing that is private gets inherited. It doesn't go anywhere. Constructors are not inherited. So you will say, but what if I need to use the constructor? Use means initialize those variables. The 4 variables that are in the other class, I need to initialize them. What will I do? This is how you do it. You write a constructor in this class by the normal rules that you've been writing. The normal rule is the name of the class and pass the parameters that you want. Yes. No, we give it a call by using super. When you do an import says I'm going to use a class of it.
No. Insert code, it'll make it for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Then I don't have to do it. Yeah. Okay, since this is inheritance and we are doing it for the first time, I'll make a little effort and then I'll do the insert. Okay. So it does take all those parameters, plus it also takes its base salary. That's what usually a constructor does. Not always, but that's what it usually does. It takes all the instance variables with which it has to work. And though you don't see it, this object also has 5 instance variables. It has to initialize 5 variables, 4 of its parent and 1 of its own. But now how do I initialize the 4 of the parent? Because I don't want to redo the code. It's already doing it. So now I will use super. I'll say super. Super is a call that calls the constructor of the superclass. Super dot something will call a method of the superclass. Right? That's what super stands for. And I'm going to pass the 4 variables to that particular constructor. Let it do its job. Right? So remove your strings. Just give them the values, copy and paste. Remove what you don't need. Remove what you don't need. And remove what you don't need. There it is. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. There. This is how you use constructors. You're invoking it, you're calling it, but you cannot inherit them. Right? So what will happen is when you create an object of this class, base plus, it calls its superclass constructor. It will go there. It will call all those set methods. Your variables are set to what is required. Validation is done, everything is done. The last variable, that is the extra one here, you will make a set call yourself. So you will say set base salary, which I'll write for now. And it was called base salary. And of course, I'll kind of write that method right. That's your constructor, which means that till now, why didn't you ever do it? If commission employee is inheriting from the object class. Why didn't you do it? Actually, you were doing it. Java was doing it for you. This is what was happening in your constructors till date. There was a super empty automatically inserted for you in every constructor. If you don't put it, that's what gets inserted, empty. And object class has an empty constructor. That's the only constructor it has, empty. You can do this. Try doing this, pass it a string. Just for the heck of it. It won't work. It will say, oh, there is no constructor that takes a string argument. Whose constructor is it checking? It is checking the constructor of the object class. And it didn't find any with the string parameter. So till now, everything worked fine because this call was being inserted for you automatically everywhere. So extends object and this call to super were always there. You never saw them, right? So keep in mind, the first call, it has to be the first statement in your constructor. The right first statement in your constructor of a subclass should be a call to the superclass. It's a rule. You can change it. You can put anything before that. You cannot. You will say, oh, let me do something like I is equal to 1. I'm just taking a local variable and setting it to 1. You can't do it. You can't. The call has to be the first statement, first executable statement. When I say first statement, I mean the first executable, the first statement to be executed. You can't do it. You can do nothing before it. Nothing. It has to be this. So that's how constructors are inherited. So they're not inherited. You can't just like use them, but you can invoke them, right? Other methods you can use. I'll show you how you use other methods, but this can be invoked. So now I've said, you do your job, I'll do my job. And what's my job? Setting the base salary. Okay, and the set base salary I'll write in a minute. I'll kind of comment it out for a minute because I want to show you how will I use it. So any error in here? I read squiggly. Okay, go to the next one and it goes away. Okay, now do this. Create a base plus employee. And I want to show you something about that inheritance. Because then I can stop writing the set statements. Create a, and we can copy this just because we know it will work. You can change a few things so that we can see different answers. But I can just add my middle name to it. I'll just change my, I'll change the base salary. I know the answers are right. And I'll change the commission rate. Plus it wants another parameter. My base salary. There it is. Oh, base plus. There. I've created a base plus employee. I've added a last parameter to it and I changed my name so that I could show you the output. Okay, just so that. And if I do this, I'll do the same thing. Which of course, let's see what happens. Right? I haven't written a toString yet in my BC, in my base plus commission. I haven't. So which one will it call? Its parents. So you'll see the parent one. It will just work automatically. Why? It has inherited it. So therefore I say constructors cannot be inherited, but all other methods can be inherited. You can do your gets and sets, everything with BC. You can do that. There's nothing stops you. Right? Same rules apply. Try it now. So I'll try again. Oh no, yeah, let me rebuild it. You try it too. And let's run it. That's coming from the second string state, the second call. It has the right data, but it didn't have a toString method. So which one was called? The parent string method was called. As simple as that. That's inheritance. I didn't have to do anything. Of course, if you have to add more to it, we will. I want to add my base salary to it. I'll improve it. But otherwise, there is nothing wrong in the answer. The answer is right. It is about the second employee. So everything works perfectly. The object was created. All variables were initialized. And the toString method, I didn't have any. I didn't have any in the second class, but it just did it. Yes.
The 1000 that you put in would be the base.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I don't see it because I haven't shown it. So what will I do is, I'll do this. I'll write a toString method here. So I'll just kind of go, just so that I don't have to write the set method. I'll just go is equal to right now so that it has a value. Right? And then And then now what? Extra bracket. It doesn't delete it until I, okay, there, hit it. It helps. Oh, okay. Now write your toString. See what will I do in toString? I can do much more. So I'm going to now override the toString of my parent class, right? Of its parent class. So the same thing, go public, returns a string, is called toString, and does this. What have I forgotten? I've forgotten something for sure. It's giving me red squigglies.
Well, you wrote public.
Okay, that's one. Thank you. That takes care of everything. Okay, so see what I'm going to do. I'm going to return a string from here too. But since I already have a toString method in my parent class and I need it, it was fine. It showed me 4 instance variables. So I'm going to start with a new line always, just to be sure. Do a %s there. And the first thing I'm going to call is I'm going to call the parents toString. Right? Just call the parents toString. That's all you do. So this %s will replace the toString call of the other ones. So what do? Where am I? I'm in the toString method and I'm overriding that. And I want to call the toString in inheritance in Java. What do I say? How do I? Oh, there. Super dot toString. I haven't done C++ for a while, but every time I do inheritance, it confuses me with the other. So that's what I've made a call to the super toString. So what will this replace? This percentage will be replaced by the super string. Why? Because it's returning a string. Everything will come. All information will come. Plus, you want to show the salary now, right? So add another percentage and I'm just going to a different line so that it's clear. And I'll give a heading of base string and we'll go minus 30s again. Left justified. And then show the base salary with a point to F. Okay, so let's go. So the second parameter is the word base salary. And my third one is my get. Okay, I have something for sure that is wrong. Get base. Oh, I haven't written a get base. Okay, I'll write it. What else can I do? It's a simple one, but I'll write it. And there and there. Write a get method, please. Get base salary. Public method returns a double. It's called get base salary. Oh, I could have done it by saying right click and do insert, and it would have shown it to me. Oh, I still have to learn how to use NetBeans smartly. Still don't do it. I was much better than in Eclipse because I was using it for a while. Okay, so I have the get method. Okay, now what doesn't it like? Of course, something that I did. Super dot double quotes. Yep, that's one. Good eyes. Yep. And now spelling of get base salary. That's second one, and I'm good to go. Okay, so notice what I've done. I have 3%. The first %s will replace the super toString will replace it. Then I'll go to a new line, say base salary. That's what I'll write. And I'm kind of trying to keep the same format. And then I'm going to show you the base salary with 2 places after decimal. So I didn't have to copy the whole thing. I didn't do a copy and paste. I don't have to. I should not be doing it is the main thing, the biggest thing. Right? Now try it again. Now try running your program again and notice the difference. For the second employee, okay? There is the second employee. Do you see an extra line of base salary? Yes. It has the value, yes. And the first 2 lines are same as the parent. If used correctly, of course, right? Do we need to use it is the first question. And then if used correctly, right? Okay, so there is my constructor. Now a few things, please pay attention. This is kind of little important so that we know it and then we don't have to repeat it. Now, if I go back to my commission employee, I have the option of changing this to protected if I want. Because I can't, I mean, you cannot access it, even in your constructor. If you try to do something like this, just for the heck of it. I don't want to put it here, but suppose I want to show that variable that was called name. Was it name? Employee name. I'm going to get an error. It's going to say it's not accessible, right? So I'm saying, okay, show me the employee name. You'll say if the base employee has all 5 instance variables, I'm repeating it has 5 instance variables, and the employee name is already set now. And if I want to show it, should I be able to show it? I was hoping that it will kind of just give me an error right here in the syntax, but doesn't seem like it should. I mean, that was my thinking, but anyway. Okay, let's run it. Oh, now what? It was called employee name. Oh, it has, no, I didn't. Oh, what am I doing now? What wrong? I can't access it. That's what I was hoping. It would give me an error right here. Oh, you know what? This is the problem. It's using the local variable. Yuck. It's using the local variable. Silly mistake. But if I don't put super in front of it, it uses this local variable. And of course, I can use the local variable in my method. But notice the problem here. What is it saying? Employee name has private access in the base, in the superclass. So though these variables are its instance variables also, but you cannot access them because they're private there. So if you want to access them, what will you do? Get employee. You can. I mean, get is a method that is available. It's a public method. You can use it and it will work. Or the other option, as I was mentioning to you, is just so that I show it to you, so that you believe me, I'll make it protected from private. Once I do this, and if I come back here, I'm okay. I'm fine. I can access protected variables. But I don't want to go that route for the simple reason because protected gives access to other classes in the package. It has a package scope. So I'll stick with private. So if you stick with private, then what do? I mean, the solution is simple. Anytime you want to use it, use your get method and you're okay. You're fine. There it is. It's a public method. Right? So access specifiers is the first point to remember. Don't go public. Protected really depends upon your application and where you're going to distribute it, right? Otherwise, stick with private. So that's one job done. Second, so you can do this. Second, now let me explain the more important thing. Let me explain this error, this warnings that you see, right? What are these warnings that you see in the set calls? Now let me explain what is happening. Since the set employee name is a normal public method, I have the liberty of overriding it here. I'll override it for you here. I can. Any child class can override a method of the parent class. So I'm just doing it for the heck of it. I'm going public. It was returning, set was returning nothing. It was called set employee name. And let me create this method. I mean, I'm just overriding it, right? And it was taking a string. You could call it anything. And let me not do anything in it at all. Like I can leave it empty. Even that doesn't matter. I'm just leaving it empty. So I've overridden my method, right? And I can do it. There's nothing wrong. Syntax-wise, there is nothing wrong. But now see what will happen when I run this code, okay? So now this method of set employee name in the base class, in the child class, is not giving any value to name. So what will be your name? Null. Right? In a sense, if I don't assign it anything, it's an empty method, it will give it null. It's just that. Now let's do something. I'm going to run my code again. And then I'll explain what has happened. So pay attention to the employee name for the second person. It's become null. And see the problem here. Now here is the problem. This is what happened. When you created a BCE, the base plus a commission employee, it made a call to the super constructor. It went to the super constructor. The super constructor made a call to the set employee method. Perfectly fine. When it made a call, it found two methods by the same name. One in its own code and one in the child code. But because this was called from the child code, it was coming from the child. It said, oh, you have a method set employee name. I'm going to use your method. Because it was overridden. It gave it a new definition. It was overridden. So it says, I have one, but you overrode it. So I'm going to use your method. So when it used its method, what happened? It went there. You could have done anything. Like I'm talking about name, but maybe here I'm checking that the gross sales is should be greater than 0. And there I'm checking it is greater than 1000. It is valid. I could be changing validation procedures. This is a simple one, doing nothing. But still what has happened? Look at the side effect. Because I didn't do anything in that code, what is my name value? None. So that means that if you put overridable methods in a constructor call and override them, which you can, then it's going to create problems. It's going to create errors. You will say, why will I do it? I'm not foolish. I know what to do. Yeah, you know what to do, but that's not the right way of doing it. I could avoid it by not doing it, but that's not the correct foolproof way of doing it. So what is the foolproof way? Now there are two options. One, you make the method set name private in your parent. But you can do that because if you make it private, then nobody can change the name. You'll say, oh, I don't want to. But what about set gross sales, for example? Gross sales can change. What about set commission rate? That can be changed. Maybe you don't want to change your name and sin. Sin is okay. Sin, I still understand. People change their name, but their sins will never change. Maybe I can make that a final variable. But I can override any of these get methods, set methods. If I can override them in the subclasses, I can create problems. And if you can create problems, your output will be wrong. And that's not what you want. So you can say, oh, I will take care, but that doesn't mean your program is foolproof. So how to make it foolproof is this. That's what I'm going to teach you. So because of this problem here, the warning you get is that this is an overridable method. And it says, I don't like using overridable methods in constructors because it can create problems. So now what do I do then? I don't have much option. Either this is option number one. You write the code that you have in the set. It's a single line code. You take this code and repeat it here, which is what it was doing for you. And that warning will go away. Because that's fine, that's one. That is repetition of code. What will happen for gross sales? I'll go to the gross sales. There is code here. I'll pick this up. I'll repeat it there also. And it will work. But repeating code is something that I definitely don't, I'm not with it at all. Why should you do it? Like it's because the more you copy, the more errors you can make. You have to make a change. Gross sales can be less, no, it can be less than 0. Maybe commission rate, something to do with commission rate. Commission rate now will lie between 0.5. I have to make changes at two places. In the set method also, and in the constructor also. So one solution is you copy code. You write this code in the constructor also, and you write the code in the set method also, and don't call the set from the constructor. That's one way of doing it. I'm totally against it. What I like, and that's, again, it's not my preference, it's logical, and you think about it. I will create a private validate commission rate just because I'm right here. I'm going to create a private method. What is the use of private? Cannot be seen outside, right? It will take a double commission. It has the same signatures. Notice the only difference is it's a private method. I'm going to take this code that lies here in the set method, take it away from here. Oh, what did I do? Take it away from here, remove it from the set, and put it in the validate. And of course, it's void. I've created a new method. It's private, so it's not accessible outside the class, right? I will call this method, I'll call. This method, the validate method, it's validating. So the validation is only at one place. I'm going to call this method from the set also. And I'll call this method from the constructor also. So call it here. Where was my here? Purpose solved. I've solved my, there's no duplication of code anywhere. I've put it at one place. I've made that method private, so I can call it in the constructor. I don't have any warnings now. You can call construct methods here. Now, if you wanted to change your validation, then you would create a private method in the subclass. So why would you change validations from one class to another? But if you have to, you will create a validate there, and that set will call that value. Otherwise, you're fine. So we are safe now. Right? So this is the solution. Don't duplicate. So let's go one by one. Since employee did not have any validation, I'm kind of keeping it here. But again, I would just put it in one common method and call both methods. Since social security number doesn't have a validation, I'm doing a direct assignment here. Right? As I said, I would definitely, it's a single statement, so no, it's not a big deal. I'm going to call validate here. I'll create a validate. gross sales, and I'll call that. It's not yet written, but I'll call it. Delete. Okay, so control and alt enter. Alt enter is gives you hints. Yeah. Create a method. There it is. So notice what I've done. Now I won't have any warnings, but the reason for warning, I've already shown it to you. So I hope you understand. Those warnings were coming because you were calling methods that would be overridden in the children in the subclasses, and overriding does create problems. I just showed you the name became null. I mean, whatever silly mistake I made, but I made it. So now, you can't say, oh, I will not make it. You can't say I'm always right. Programmers will not make it. Programmers will make mistakes, but here you can't make any mistake, right? So this validate gross sales will have what? The validate gross sales will exactly have what this set method had. Remove it from here and put it in your validate gross sales. Validate gross sales, and there. Put it here. So the validation goes into a private method, right? And then you call this method, and then you call this method in your set. Where is the set? What isn't it like? Oh, semicolon is missing. Validate, and call it in your set gross sales here. Call it. Remove the word double and call it. And call it from the constructor also. So validation is still being done. It is done at one place, no copying of code. It is a private method. Set can call it, constructor can call it, no copying. So now this point onwards, you will start doing this. So you will write your set methods. You have to write your set methods if you require them from outside the class. But instead of writing the validation inside the set methods, you will write them in a separate private method. Set will call that too, and the constructor will call that. No warnings, no overridable methods, problems, nothing. Even now, if you override your set, it's not going to create any problem. It won't. Why? Because when it comes to the constructor here, the constructor is calling the validate private procedure. So it doesn't even go to set. So override it if you want. Nothing stops you if you have to. So now for name, I didn't do it, but it's the procedure will remain the same. What will you do? You will take your whatever is in the set method, though it's very small, it's just a name, but whatever it is, you will take your name, you will take this statement, put it in a validate procedure, and then call it. There is nothing to validate, but that's what you will do.
Why are we keeping the set methods?
Yeah, no. Remember, set methods are not only used from the constructor, they can be used from outside the class also. If I want to change the name of an employee, of an object, I have to do object name dot set. So we need the sets. So we need the sets, so we need them. But we don't want to call the set from the constructor. So we create a private method and we call that validation from both places, right? And as I said, you should be doing it for name also, and you should be doing it for the social security number also. Assuming you will do some kind of validation in there.
Even if I'm calling it, as you say, it still breaks.
Shouldn't break. Let's try. Okay, so let's see if I've missed anything, if I have any warnings. I don't want to see any warnings. So what did you do in base plus? You overwrote it and did nothing? Shouldn't break now, because when you call the super, did you make this change in your super constructor? Did you make these changes in your super constructor?
Yes.
You have this, and you have validate. Oh, because employee name, you haven't changed the employee name. I haven't yet changed the first two. So what should you do for validate name? You have to write a validate name. We haven't done that because you checked the name one. That's why it will break. So call a validate name and call it here. I mean, I haven't written for all of them because the name was the most silly one to write. But anyway, so this is a private method, does nothing. Public method does nothing, and it will take the same thing. Why don't I just copy this? Right, that's your validate, and then you will call validate here. So you have to do this for every one of them. Though it's, as I said, it's not required, but I mean, you have to do it. You can call them. So validate name. One job done, and call this validate name also from your constructor, and then it won't break. We haven't yet completed it. Oh, No, yeah, but did you do a this or were you calling the set here? Were you calling set here? No, this.
Validate, forget what you said.
Okay, let's see. Let's even do it without it. It should work. I don't see an error. Let me see. If you have one, then most probably I'll also have one, but let's see. I mean, I'm not even calling the set method. I'm just doing it. I'm just assigning it. Let's try. So run, clean. This dot name. No, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't. There it is. It shouldn't because I did a this dot. I didn't call the set. I don't even have to write the validate because I did a this there. Though again, as I said, you shouldn't be doing this as we should always be calling. But it shouldn't. So why is your breaking? Because logically it shouldn't. So you are definitely missing something. Here, either you are calling the set method, which I'm not. I mean, I don't even have to do anything at all. I just replaced it with the this dot name. So you will see this commonly now. Wherever no validation is done, they will just put, I mean, programmers will just use a normal assignment right here because there's nothing to validate. And we'll write the set method, of course, since it is required from outside the class. But it should not break. So I don't know, double check what's going on. I can place this on Blackboard in the break and then you can double check if you like, but I didn't use set at all. So no warnings even now. See, no warnings in my constructor. And that's your aim. Though it's week 11, but now you know, right? So you couldn't understand this concept because you didn't do inheritance at that point of time. Now you know why it gives you a warning, because it creates problem when you override methods. Just for that reason, it may not do it at all. No problems may be created at all if you're careful. But as I always say, if you do it the right way, you cannot go wrong. Right? So you can leave it here or you can write the validate. I leave it to you because there's no validation. But the right way would be to do like I've done. I've added a validate name. And similarly, I can add YB. I shouldn't be lazy. It just takes a minute to do it. That way I can say I showed it in class. You know what I mean? Social security number. Here, let's do a. Okay, so there it is. It has validated it. Control V, Control V. And then the set one will call the validate one. Do I have it? Yes, I have it. Social security number. There it is. So I've written validate social security number. Okay, so in future, it's extensible now. In future, if you want to validate your name or your social security number by regular expressions, which you should, then we don't have to change much. So I've changed my set. I've added a validate. And then from the constructor also, I'll just call the validate. That way, validate employee name. There it is, the first one. I know it's an overkill, but it's an overkill for what we are doing, but necessarily it's not an overkill for what will happen. Okay, what is it called? Was it? Oh, just employee name. It was called just name, not employee name. And the second one was called validate social security number. Here. And there, complete. Validate. Okay. Now it's completely, now what is it saying? Oh, didn't I? No, they're all private. Oh, the validate name. Okay, the validate name has to be private. Perfect. Otherwise, the whole purpose is lost. And the validate has to be private. Perfect. Thank you. And we are good to go. There it is. No warnings, nothing. Code is extensible. You can change your set methods if you like. You don't have to bother about changing anything else. Everything goes, not the set, sorry, the validates now. We call them validate. You don't have to call them validate at all. Like I just call them validate because that's the name that came to mind. So now you will change your programming style a little. Anytime you want to do validation, you will put it at one place, make it private, call it from the constructor, call it from the set. Private methods cannot be overridden anyway, so we are safe, right? Now there's no problem at all in the base commission. So even if you override this method for whatever purpose, if you have to, then if you use it with a base plus employee, this is the set method will be called. If you use it with the commission employee, its set method will be called. But it is not going to do anything to your constructor. It won't matter there. That's where the problem was arising. Okay, so we have, so now again, we'll do the same thing. You write your own private. Now that we know, we won't make a mistake. Okay, so we are going to write a private validate base salary. Takes a salary from you, or base salary, whatever you would like to call it. And I'll call it base salary just in case we start using salary for the total one. And all it does is this. We'll do an if, right? Your base salary cannot be less than 0. So validate it. Can it be 0? I don't think so. We'll throw an exception. Throw a new illegal argument exception and give a message. Base salary needs to be greater than 0. There it is, and there, oops, and there it is. Okay, spelling is wrong again. There it is. Else, I mean, we don't have to write an else. Otherwise, take your this dot base salary and assign it the one that you are passing in. And call this method now. Call this method now from your set. Where is your set? I haven't yet written a set. No, I haven't yet written a set. So let's call it from here for sure. Control V. So that's calling from the constructor. And we'll write the set right here. Insert code. A setter for the base salary. Generate. And call it from here. And there it is, complete. Now we know how to write our constructors. So we know how, we already knew it, but now we know how to write them correctly. You'll say, what if this class doesn't have a subclass? Even then I have to do it? Like, why are you thinking about what may or will not happen right now? Extensible code, right? This base plus commission may not have a childlet, or it doesn't in this picture at least. So I don't have to be careful about these things. But as I said, if you do something the right way, then you don't ever have to go back and change it. So if this class is extended, I'm safe. If this class is not extended, that's also okay. I know it is more code. I just had to write another method in it, but maintenance is low, right? Always code intelligently and correctly. Now, let's see another use. So you've seen a use of, definitely I could override the toString and you called it. You've definitely seen the use of the super. And we've also seen that we can add any new instance variables and use the old ones. We can do that. Now let's look at the other one, the get earnings.
We like take that.
Sorry?
We like take that.
Oh, okay, sure. Let's last method, one method, just last. Okay, go. We'll come back and do it. Here, we'll do it afterwards. Take a break. Take a break of 20 minutes and come back. One more method here and then come to this. We'll come to this.
In an emergency use, when it was like backers, potentially first thing.
On the, whatever, next week.
The next Wednesday.
When's that project due?
Not till the end of the term. Hopefully he'll define it a little bit more clearly.
So.
Well, or week 12, or no, we're in week 11, so it's week 12, 13. So I guess 16, 17.
You know, you never even. So I know, you know, it's good work. All the information you want is basically nothing.
This was Blackboard. It's like exposed for a while. And then made us tell us people to screenshot with your phone or something. And insert like the things that he said. He was like talking about what the project is. And made us look. This is like how the process exists today.
This one?
Yeah, this is how it currently exists. And he wants us to fix it or streamline it. Redundancy.
Yeah.
Essentially, most of the pizza forms come out in a paper form, even though you have to log onto a digital place and make a payment. But that's not in their system. So you have to like log in, make this payment, make a bunch of selections for this pizza, then print off a form, fill out the exact selections you just made online, take it into the school with an invoice that you paid for the online thing, and then they're going to re-enter it again at the school. Okay, so it's like hugely redundant. It's this one. Yeah, it's like it's insanity actually.
It's almost like broken telephone.
Yeah,
Hanging off the same thing over and over.
yeah, the room for error is so big. Absolutely.
They make an error, the next person could make an even bigger error.
Yeah, the whole thing just gets broken pretty quick.
Why don't they just do this for, just go before it is here today? That's what we did when I was in school.
Well, I know, that's what we did back in the day, for
I
sure.
got one form, my parents filled out and I bought it back, and gave it to me with money attached to it.
Yeah.
Or a check or something.
Yeah, they don't accept cash anymore at school.
If you have computers in the wrong way.
Yeah,
Right? Which makes
yeah, that's not.
There's beyond one school cash.
Not to mention, his wife was getting the same thing,
Oh,
but he's already paid for it. So we're getting already paid for
that's additional complexity.
it, right? You're paying for two different parents.
Well, that's why you register, when you
Oh,
register
yeah, on
your
the
kid.
online website, you register your
You
payment.
think it's like that.
You got the manual over.
Or if you want both to be reasonable, then you put them both under the same ID.
We have to
And
do
then
it for each
and then
one.
keep a record of what's
Sign
been
the
changed and what's happened, so that if
Or you
one
can just
person
design a
comes
system
in,
that
they
pipes
see
them
what's
in, get
happened,
them all together.
so they don't do.
Sub, we definitely don't.
So
sometimes when you pay,
I want to illustrate if I can still get subs as a
Yeah, it's one double. Stuff on it.
That's like we have so many variations. We have a booster juice that's
See over levels.
Yeah. In that plaza over there, where Tim Hortons is at?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You went there and came back?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's
That was
fast.
quick.
Well, it drove.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Like
Yeah.
you didn't walk, you went by car, right?
Yeah.
But still, like going to the parking lot, going, coming back, parking, that was really quick.
It was 20 minutes.
She really,
Really, she was really quick.
Didn't even go fast.
No, it is. You don't realize it, maybe. Like going down, going to the parking lot and taking out your car itself is 5 minutes, right? Like, I mean, that's more, I mean, walking, I would be there in maybe 10 minutes, not even 10, less than 10. Like I live just across. So where that plaza ends, I'm just across there. So it takes me around 15 minutes to walk to work. Yeah, but okay. So let's get back to what we were doing. I'll complete the last. This is on Blackboard. What we've done till now is on Blackboard, and I'll replace the latest file. So we know how to use variables from the other class by the get methods. Keep in mind, we've kind of talked about private, public, and protected, and we'll stick to private. We've also now kind of made a rule that we will not call overridable methods in the constructor because it does create problems, right? There is a logic to it. Why don't we do it? That's why NetBeans was giving you a problem. And now just to kind of wrap it up, let's write the last method, the earnings. What are the earnings of this salaried base plus commission employee? He has a salary and he has a commission too. So let's override that method. So any method that you need to override, you can do that. See the advantage. Any method you need to override, you can just override it. Something that you want to use as per se, your getters, your setters, leave them alone. If you want to use part of something, call it with super and you can use part of something. Like there's so many options of inheritance, right? So lastly, but not the it is an important one, right? Your public method, the one that was returning a double, was giving you the earnings. And here also I could write the whole formula myself, but I can do this. I can say return, get the earnings of my superclass. Don't forget the super dot get earnings, because then it will call its local one and we'll have a recursive call. Gets its earnings and to it add the base salary. And that completes it. Okay, now what? Get earnings spelling is wrong. There. Again, a call to your super method. You could have written the whole thing yourself. You could have said get gross sales multiply by get commission rate plus add. But if it is already doing it, and there is again another example of inheritance, the class is already doing it, the super class is already doing it. Why should I repeat it? Right? So use inheritance like it was really inheritance. Like use as much as you can. The class is complete now. Now, if you kind of again want to show the earnings in your employee inheritance, and I haven't shown it, but you could. And I have not added earnings in either because I needed to show the base salary, but you can, I mean, then nothing, you can say this person earns, and then you can put it in the beginning instead of at the end. And then at the end, the new instance variables can be added. Like I added base salary, right? So if I want to show that, all I have to do is this. I repeat this, I repeat this. I mean, I'll just use it, I'll make it more neater. As soon as you start making it neater, see, so you can say, and I'll kind of put this. You can always show the dollar sign yourself. Like nothing stops you from doing that. I'll take this just to kind of keep it. I could add it to the toString. It's not a big deal. Just add it before. Its placement will be a little odd. You're showing the earnings first and then you're showing the gross sales or whatever, but it can be done. And in the second one, I'll show BC's earnings. There it is. Right, so it will show you and it will be neat. It will be neat and clean. Oh, okay, so I'll have to build again. I don't know, it happens. It's one in the blue moon, it will kind of go finicky. Oh, I forgot my percentage n, right? So with printfs, always be careful with system.formats. Be careful that you have your percentages n's at the right place, beginning or the end. So this was a print ln, so this started with a new line. But this didn't have, this is not printf, so notice how it says build successful on the same line. So that's all you have to remember, that put your percentages n, never forget them. But this one will need one at the end also. That's the only thing that kind of is not so user-friendly in but I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just showing you. So the answers are coming right. Notice how it says 150, that's, and here it has added my base salary. So 1,000 and 150 makes 1,000. 1,000. Oh, my commission rate has gone up 25%. That's why. I thought the answer is not right. Yeah.
Why we are not putting this earnings in
The toString, I'll tell you why, because it looks a little untidy. You tell me what would be the right place to put earnings at the end, right? So you will say the name, then you will show the social security number, gross sales, and then you will put the earnings here, right? So that's fine. But what will happen is when I inherit or I use this method in my base plus, what will happen is it will show the earnings first and then it will show the base salary at the end. So that will kind of look odd. Just because it will look odd in its position. In the first one, it will look fine, right? In this one, it's fine. I can put the earnings at the end. Here, I can put it right at the end here. And it's fine. But when I use it in my base class, it will show me earnings first and it will show me the base salary afterwards. So you kind of keep it separate, but it should go in the toString. You're right. It will just be misplaced in the last one. Okay. So I could, but as I said, just for its where it is placed. Just because you're using them and you will keep using them, and so it will just kind of come in the right place in one, not at the right place in the other, and so on. That's why. That's the only thing. So that's ready now. The classes are ready. They behave as they should. We know what inheritance is. We've taken care of private, public, protected. We know where not to use overridable methods. We've done a good job, right? So we are done. But now to extend it. Now to extend it to this picture, and now to also introduce you to abstract classes, right? So till now we know what to do, right? Once you have that map, you have, keep in mind, constructors cannot be inherited, private methods or private variables cannot be inherited. Any public method can be overridden or used. I mean, you can use it without overriding it. It's fine to use it. Like, you don't have to override it. If you want to keep the original definition, my getters and setters, I didn't do anything with them. Get earnings I had to change, so I overrode it. ToString I wanted to change, so I did an override. But if you don't have to do it with other stuff, don't do it. Similarly, static constants, class constants belong to the class. The final constants cannot be inherited. They're final. So if you can remember the rules, they're all logical rules. There's nothing as if you don't have to memorize them, but they're all logical. So public, anything public can be overridden, can be inherited. Private cannot be inherited, cannot be overridden. Right? Anything that's final belongs to the class. A final method cannot be overridden. We know it. Final method means it cannot be overridden. Final variables, I mean, you can't have a set method at all, so that's out. So final methods cannot be overridden. A final class cannot be extended, just so that you know. Right? Remember, string is a final class and math is a final class. They cannot be extended. So don't create your classes as final if they have to be extended. Final means final. So how can it be extended? You can't do anything with it. Similarly, final methods cannot be overridden because it's a final method. Similarly, final constants, variables cannot be, I mean, you don't do anything with it. You can't override them, but those only belong to the class. Static static variables only belong to the class. You can't use them in the subclasses, superclasses. Can you? Logically, think about it. Can the static method of a class be used in its subclass? It can be used in its subclass by supercall, but can it be overridden? I'm not sure. Logically, I don't know. Final, all that makes sense. I don't know about static. What do you think? If I have a static method in a class, logically, suppose, I mean, I'll just create one for the heck of it very quickly. I'll create a public static returns nothing. Just so that try takes nothing. Oh, come on. I'm creating a static method. You remember what static method is? They only identifier expected. Public static void try. Oh, oops, the reserved word. Right? Try is a reserved word. So that's what it was saying. I'm going to just do a system out println. I don't even have to do that. I'm just going to see if I can override I'll take this, go to my base commission. I don't know. Static methods are class methods, right? So I don't know. I'll say override. Oh, okay. Oh, I can change the signatures. Yeah, I can do it. See, it's saying method does not override or implement a method from a super type. This is not a good message. It's not a good error message, but yeah, so I can't override. If I do this, it doesn't override itself.
It's not like a way to protect your objects from being manipulated.
Manipulated, yeah. So what is a static method? A static method means it belongs to a class. You use it with a class name. So class name dot this. So it can be overridden, right? Doesn't make sense.
Right.
If I have to use it, I can use it with the class name here also. I can use it, but I can't override it.
Like if you were trying to like create a way for employees to be paid out, but you never wanted any of them to be able to ever change the way that algorithm works when you use it like this, is that
okay, where will I use a static method? Something that all employees need.
right?
That's what a static method would be, right? Something that all employees need, but belongs to the class.
But all employees need it, but they wouldn't be
Able to change it.
You don't want them
To
be able
change it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where it will make sense. Because it's not complaining, but as soon as I say override, it doesn't like it. Yeah. Because what is a class method? What is a static method? A static method is a class method. So you can, the the subclasses should be able to use it, but should not be able to override it. So how would I use it if I wanted? So that means same with constant. So if I wanted to use it just for the heck of it, I'm doing it. Can I say something like this? Super dot try method. Is it giving any problems? Do I have a, no? Yep. Oh, it has a green squiggly, doesn't it? Accessing static method. Okay, so it's saying something. Alt enter. Replace with class reference. Okay, I don't have to, I don't say super. Then I say, I think, commission employee. Okay, so I can use it, but not with super. I have to use it with the class name. Yeah, makes sense, because what if it belongs to a class above the class? So I have to use it with the class name. But yeah, I can't override it. Logically, class method, all objects of that class, or anybody can use it, right? A static method, any it can be used anywhere as long as it is public. So this is making sense. This makes complete sense that you can use it and it's okay. But if you just can't change its implementation. Now, why would that be? Belongs to the class. Maybe it has to do something with the instance variables of the class, and since subclass may have extra variables and it tries to do something, but you can't. It doesn't seem you can change its definition. You can use it, but cannot change its definition. What about static final variables then, or just a static variable? I don't know. Now, then logically that shouldn't happen. So I'll just, I mean, this was just to see if I could override it, which I cannot. What about a static variable? If it is private, then it's out. We don't usually have private static variables. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It has to be public, right? So if it is a public, can I use it? Yeah, I should be able to. Yeah, because you can use it with the class name dot here. Okay, so we'll leave statics. The finals make sense. Rest everything, public and all that makes sense. Get set methods make sense. Private, protected, all that makes, yeah, we're okay. So yeah, static methods can be used with the call like them normally, because they're not restricted, they're not inherited kind of self. They're not. I mean, you use them as you use them, and anybody can use them. Okay, so I think that takes care of what we had to kind of talk about in for now. If I have something, I'll come back. But that's the picture, right? Now to extend it. Now, if I want to add another two, so these are called concrete classes. You can create instances of it for your information. We haven't given it a name, but they're concrete classes. Right? Now, suppose I want to add another 2 employees to my system. So the company does not only have commission employees or base plus commission employees, it also has hourly and salaried employees. So I could create 2 new classes, but those 2 new classes have no relationship with these, right? That means in these 2 classes, I'll have to create my instance variables again, the same ones, name, social security number, and whatever extra it needs. I'm only talking 2, but remember we had more employee ID, hire date, and so on. There could be many. I only have 2, so it may not seem as important, but of course you could have many. The only thing that is uncommon between them is the gross salary and the commission rate here. And these guys will have a salary, a base salary, and the other ones will have hours work. But there are some common instance variables. For me, only social security number. Each one of them must have a get earnings method. There has some way to calculate the earnings. Each one of them does need a 2-string method. So, and the getters and setters, of course, go with the instance variables. They're automatically there. So if I wanted to create this hierarchy, and these classes are not children or not subclasses of either commission or base commission, but I want to still use inheritance and use it correctly, what I could do is I could create an employee class, like a normal employee class, in which I will put what? Common instance variables, common getters and setters. Now the 2 earnings method is not common. They're being, every time it has to be calculated a different way. But if I could force that every class that inherits from employee writes a get earnings, I could make that force. I could do that. So I'll write a get earnings there without any implementation. There is nothing in it, but I could override it. A 2-string with whatever I have, the rest I can add afterwards. If I want to do this, I'll have to change my picture a little. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to create a new employee class, and that's the class that you can pick up from Blackboard if you like. Okay, that class is available there so that we don't type it. And then I'll show you what we can do. So just pick up that class from your Blackboard and paste it here, and we'll change the package statement. So I have it here. I'm going to pick it up And I'm also going to put it in my package. So it's called employee.java, and put it in your, just paste it in your, it's that simple as just pasting it here. Once you have it, then the only thing you'll have to do, if you have to do it, I did a refactor. I didn't even have to change my inheritance, my package statement. Once you have it, then we'll go further. Okay. So bring that class from Blackboard and add it to your package. Now, a few things that I would like you to pay attention to. One, notice the class definition has abstract in front of it. Now, what is this abstract class? What does it mean in Java? An abstract class is a class that has at least one abstract method. You'll say, now what's an abstract method then? An abstract method is a method that has no implementation at all. It just has the signatures. There is no implementation, not even opening and closing bracket. As soon as you put opening and closing, that's an empty method. An empty method is different from no implementation. So when a method doesn't have an implementation, you have to make it abstract. Now, if the method is abstract, how can the class be concrete? Because in a way, it doesn't have a definition for get earnings. If it doesn't have a definition for a method, it cannot be concrete, because concrete classes can be instantiated. You can create objects of that class. So you have to make this class abstract. So what is an abstract class? An abstract class is a class which has at least one abstract method. It could be more than one. What is an abstract method? A method that has no implementation. You'll say, then what's its use? Here is the use. Here is the important use of it. Any class that extends this class. So abstract classes can be extended, but cannot be instantiated. Think of it. Why can't they be instantiated? If I create a class object of employee class and it has a method get earnings, I can't say e1.get earnings because there is no implementation. It doesn't have a definition. So I can't do it. Because you should, if you create an object, you should be able to say object name dot method name. Now, if you say object E is of type employee and you go E dot get earnings, and get earnings doesn't have an implementation, how can you do it? So an abstract class cannot be instantiated, but it can be extended. Once you extend it, what you have to do is you have to implement the get earnings method. You have to implement its abstract method. So it's kind of a rule has been enforced in the abstract class that every class that inherits from it has to override the get earnings methods. If not, then the subclass also becomes abstract. So what does abstract class gives you? It gives you the definition, it gives you the framework, it gives you the kind of concept, but it also gives you that you may not have a method. A method is not implemented, but it forces you to implement that method in the subclass. So you've kind of made a rule that every employee does need a get earnings method, which is a rule, which is a correct rule. There's nothing wrong in it. Every employee does need to have a get earnings method. Yes, Ravinder. They are only for the purpose of inheritance, but remember, with the purpose, they have variables, they have methods, they could have concrete methods and concrete variables that are all inherited. So you can use all of them. Plus, it says that the abstract methods need to be implemented. Yes, but its use is only for inheritance. You cannot instantiate it. You cannot. If you try to go to your main and try to do it, it won't let you. Try to create one. Go employee E is equal to new employee and do whatever with it. It had a name, I think. I'm assuming, and it has a social security number. And it won't. Here it will say employee is abstract, cannot be instantiated. Yes, so it's only uses for inheritance. You're right. There is no other use. But with inheritance, it gives you that added advantage that you're forcing the subclasses to write the method or implement the abstract method or methods in it, right? That's the use of an abstract class. So I can do this. This cannot be done. But yes, you can extend it. So we'll start from here. So this is new for you, but all that an abstract class is a class that has at least one abstract method. At least one, could be more. Otherwise, it's just a normal class. Okay, so what did I do in my employee? I said you have a name and you have a social security number. Now you could add all the others here, employee ID, hire date, whatever, like anything that is common to all employees can go here. Everything can go here. So it's saving you code. Everything that you thought could go, employee ID, date, hire, all that we discussed can all go here. Then it has its own constructor as a normal constructor. So I've kind of used this is here, just being lazy, but you should again have your validate methods here, right? This you should, I've just put normal inside, and I'm not writing setters at all. I'm not using, I shouldn't say writing, I'm not using. There is your get name, there is your set name. So again, if I wanted to, let's not be lazy, I have it here, why not just get it? We'll remove it from here anyway. So get your validate name from here. Control C, put it here. We better do it. There it is. That's your validate name. And also there was a validate social security number. Not much to validate, but anyway. Set, where are you? Validate. Validate social security number. There it is. So you can bring this method also in your employee class. Okay, so I have my two validate methods here. What was it called here? Oh, here it was only called name, that's why. Let's call it employee name just because I've been using it. So let's refactor this. Let's say refactor, rename to employee name. And apply rename on comments and refactor and change it everywhere. Okay, so I've changed my employee name to employee name, so that, because that's what we've been calling it till now, right? And I'll call the validate here. I'll just call it, just because I'll just call it validate employee name. Call this method in your constructor right here and pass it the name. So right way is this. Call your second one. Pass it in the constructor. That's how you should be doing it. And also validate, call them in your set methods. So I've put my validates. I'm not being lazy. It just doesn't work, I think. Better to do it right. And here, call it here. And call your names, the name one here. Set employee name, validate it. Same concept that I've done before. Write a private validate method and use it wherever you have to use it. There it is. Okay, so now make that changes, and again I'll place this. Oh, you know what? Give me 1 minute. I placed the 2-level. I did the 2-level on Blackboard. I'm just going to replace my base commission before I change it. We made some changes in it, right? Just so that you have it, nothing else. So you have it from here. I think I also made changes to the inheritance one. Forgot about it. I'm not even sure if people look at it, but sometimes I'll have people saying, oh, did you place your code? So I'll overwrite it. And I did, if you want, I can put the try thing, the static thing, but that's all I did in the, and I won't put it to confuse people who weren't listening, but that was just checking if you can use a static method. Okay, let's come back here. Okay, so my employee is ready. Okay, my employee is ready. That's all I have to do in the employee. Normal. Make it an abstract class, put the instance variables you want, write the constructor as you would do, write your validate methods, write your setters, write your getters, and the most important thing that is new is this for you. This is an abstract method. All you do is signatures and the semicolon. Another thing that I must mention, though it's very logical, but I must mention that when you override a method anywhere, like wherever you override it, whenever you override a method, you can't change its public to private, for example. You can't do that even. So when you override a method, actually this specifier is not a part of signatures. This is what a signature is. That's what signatures, but you can't even change its access modifiers. You cannot. You can't change a method that was public in the parent to private in the child. You can't even do that. Or opposite, a private in the parent, a private is out. A protected in the parent, you can't even change to public here. You cannot change its scope. Keep that in mind also. But just so that you know, these are called signatures, and this is not a part of the signature. This is called access specifier, but you can't change nothing. Neither the signatures nor the access specifier. You can't do it with anything, neither with methods nor with variables. You say, oh, it was public in my parent. Now I want to make it protected or private. Cannot do it. You cannot. Keep that rule in mind. Logically, it makes sense, but I should mention it just so that you know. Now, this is new. This is a method that does not have a body. So please keep in mind, this is not the same as this. Oops, sorry. This is not the same as this. This has an implementation. Though because it is returning a double, it says where is the return, but this is not an empty, this is an empty method. This is an abstract method. There is a difference between an empty method and an abstract method. Keep that in mind. So this is something new, but the main thing is you have to now implement this in your subclasses if your subclasses are concrete. If they themselves are only for inheritance and it goes on, then you don't have to implement it. Then you don't have to. And here is the toString. What did I do in toString? I'm kind of still sticking with my minuses and my pluses, but you know what? We can start changing it. If you don't want it, we can. It's just more work. But anyway, here. And the minus and the plus, just because I've used 30 there, I'm changing it to 30 here. Minus because I used both of them. String method. Normal class. Nothing different. Getters, setters, constructors, toString. Abstract method to earnings. The class is abstract. Right? Now what I'm going to do, see its advantage now. When I come to commission, now start removing what you don't want. The first thing I'll do is I'll extend employee. That's my first job, right? You can extend, you can inherit from an abstract class. I don't need these two. Remove them. They're coming from my parent now. Remove your two variables. Now see how commission employee will change because it is now inheriting from employee. Change it, right? Next. Now it says, what is it saying? Oh, of course, the super will have to change. What will you be passing to the super? You will be passing the employee name and you will be passing the social security number to your super. That means you don't need this here. So that's how things change. That's how inheritance change, right? So two less, the two extra one it needs come here. It takes all the 4 parameters, passes to its super and does the two validation itself. Now we don't want any of the getters or the setters for the employee name. All 3 methods are gone. I don't need them. I don't need any validation or get or set for my social security number. Gone. Notice how code is reducing. It's almost going half. And that's advantageous. You're creating your own classes that are taking care. I need the get set of the gross sales. I need the get set of my commission. And I need the validate. The validate of gross sales was right at the bottom. So if you want it, you can pick it up from here and put it with it just so that you can see it. I mean, just so that you can see it, nothing else. There it is, right? So now you can kind of see them together, validate, get, and set. And similarly for your commission, get commission, set commission, and your validate. Again, if you want to move validate, it's up to you. Control at F for format, there it is, much neater. So you can start putting things in order, though it's not required. You know that it's encapsulation. We don't need them to be in any order at all. But sometimes we want them in order. We want them in order, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 methods gone, 2 instance variables gone. Right now, I'll just remove this. I was just trying it, so I'll remove it because it was just there. Now try to do this. Remove it for a minute. Just remove it. I don't have a get earnings method. But what will happen is, as soon as you remove it, you will start getting an error here. It will say commission employee is not abstract and does not override the method. So if you don't override it, you have to make this class also abstract. But I will override it because I need a get earnings method in my commission employee. But if you don't do it, then you have to make this class abstract too. So either you override the abstract methods or make the class abstract. So it's kind of a rule, right? So I'll go back to where I was. I'll do a Control Z. I have it. I'm okay. I have a new method. I'm getting a problem with the get employee name. Why? Because I have to go super.get employee. Right? You have to call these. Now what? Get name now? Oops. Is it? Are you sure? I didn't change its name. I thought I was changing names. It seems like no. Set name, get name. Ah, okay. My bad. Come back here. It's called get name. So I don't need the super because if it doesn't have it, it looks in its parents automatically. You don't have to mention super every time. Like this hasn't to be done every time. It depends on, some people do it for clarity and some people find it confusing. So, but you don't need this if there is no ambiguity. Similarly, you don't need a super if there is no ambiguity. What is the ambiguity? If your super class also has a get name and the class also has a get name and you want to differentiate, am I calling this one or am I calling my parent, then you go super dot. Otherwise, there is only one there. There is no problem. But if you have another get name, you'll say, what will I do with the get name? Like all I'm doing is return name. So therefore it's not possible, but it could be. You could override get name here. You could override it. So if you don't put anything in it, it becomes the local one. If you put super with it, it becomes the parent. So you have that option. You can override a method. And when you override it, you have the option of using your parents or your own. And that's quite logical, right? So just so that you know, I'll write a get name here just for the heck of it. So I'll say public, but I mean, I don't need it, but anyway, string, get name. And I'll just return Anju, which is incorrect, but anyway, I'll return hello. Just to show you because I don't need it, right? So now when I do this, this will print hello. And I can show it to you that it will print hello. But if I say super.getName, then it will print whatever has been set. So you could do this, get name could be done. So where do you need super? When you want to call the super method. If there is no ambiguity, then you don't need it. But this will now call hello. It will show you if you say get name. Anything else that is showing an error? Let's save this. I don't see any red squigglies. Base is still sitting. Let the base sit. Oh, the toString method. Okay, now what do I don't need? Oh, I don't need it actually here at all. But I was showing it to you, but I don't need it because I'll be using the toString of my parent class. I don't even need it. But like, why would I do it? But let's run it, okay? Let's run it. So let's go to your employee inheritance and see what happens. Oh, let me do this clean. So there it is. See, hello, hello everywhere. That's my employee name instead of whatever. And now which one is which? How many of them do I have? I have 2 of them. Oh, this will also use, the child will also use the get name of its parent. It won't use its parent's parent. So it's saying hello now. You've overridden it. So you have to be careful. On the other hand, if you go super.getName, and let's see the output. So now whatever was set. So let's run it and run it again. There I'm okay with now. I'm fine now. Right. So if there is ambiguity, use super. If there is no ambiguity, then you don't have to use super, but it will depend. But this I don't have to do now. So remove the first 30 and %s and the second 30 and the %s and the percentage here. Remove and replace it by a single %s and call your super toString. So till where? Till here. Oops. Super.toString. Of course, you need super here, guys. If you don't do super, if you don't write super, it will call its own method, and that's recursion. It will never end. It will keep calling. Okay. So the first %s is replaced by toString, and then the bracket is missing here. I'm good here. Okay. So now the super.toString will show you the name and the social security number, the sales, the gross sales heading, the get gross sales, the commission rate heading, and the commission rate is coming from here. So I can remove those. So I can kind of delegate work to where it belongs, and it will still work. So now this will not even cause a problem because the name is coming from there anyway, right? The name is coming from there anyway. So if you do silly things, you will get silly output. It's as simple as that. But you should know what is silly and what can be done. And that's the whole purpose of doing it, okay? And do this. And there it is. Right? I have Anju Chawla and Anju K. Chawla. I can't create an employee object at all. I can show you its toString method because it's an abstract class. I cannot do it. This is the only one I can show. But it works, right? So now see what has happened. We have started with an employee class. The employee class is abstract. But what does it give me? It gives me that extra advantage of putting common stuff in that class. And also, because I have made it, the main purpose was because I've made it abstract, I can add all those methods that I want classes to overwrite. That's another advantage of this. I mean, it's not necessary, but you have an option. If you don't override it, make that class as abstract. But I have delegated, so my this class has become much shorter, and it's kind of only it's only talking about its own. The rest, the name, the social security number, their validation, their setters, their getters are all coming from there. My job is done. So I've now created a 3-level hierarchy for you. It's a 3-level one now. And everything is where it should be. Now we have to go further. And since we have time, I have time with you. I couldn't do it with my other section, so I'll do this with you. And I don't know, we can do something extra next week. Now we need to create 2 more classes, right? And add it to the inheritance. And these 2 classes will inherit from the employee class. Same job, but we'll do what? Exactly what commission has done. If the hourly one will have 2 more attributes, 2 more instance variables, number of hours worked and pay per hour, so that I can calculate its earning. And the salaried class will have 1 more, maybe we can call it salary or base salary. We have a base salary there, but there is no connection. We can call it some base salary and create 2 new classes. So that's your next job. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, since I have it and it's just typing and nothing else, I'm going to place it on Blackboard. You can pick it up and paste it. And then we can just quickly discuss it. That way we can save time. Then we will be left with doing interfaces next time. So you guys are going quicker, which is perfectly fine. So give me a minute now, because I didn't place it. I wasn't expecting it. But anyway, so the 3 classes are ready. You know what are abstract classes. You know what are abstract methods. You know what are now concrete classes. You know that you cannot, you can try it, but you won't be able to create an employee object. We've already, so I'll keep it here for your reference. I cannot create an object. It will give you an error, which is what it should. I mean, the data is not so important, but just so that you know, and we cannot do this. We'll comment this out, and I'll save this for you. The rest, there's nothing different at all. I haven't written much methods, just these 2 methods. Okay, so let me give it to you so that you have it. Where do I have it? I think I know where I have it. So you can go to Blackboard, give me a minute, and I'll put it for you. Okay, that way we can save time. So I'll add it to the same place that I added the inheritance. I'll add more files.
Are you gonna put the ones up?
Yes, I will do that too. I'll do that too. I've already put up the 2 ones. I'll put the 3rd one also. Okay, so let's go and browse my computer and get the right one now. Since I've already done it, I'll go into my personal and see employee inheritance. I'm hoping I'm giving you the right one. Okay, so I'm going to give you hourly employee. Makes no sense typing it. And I'm going to give you the salaried employee. Polymorphism we'll do next time, right? But you can take these 2 from me right now and pick them up and add them to your project. And just because so that you have it in stages. And this is the use of GitHub. If I was putting it on GitHub, I don't know why I didn't do it. I do it with my, I'm sure you can handle it. Now you know what, do you use GitHub in your other courses? PHP, right? Yeah. It's very easy. All I have to do is I just keep pushing it, and then I don't have to do all this on Blackboard. When it started, I thought you were in semester 2, so maybe it was new for you, and so I kind of didn't do it. And I've forgotten it now because I haven't practiced it myself, right? Okay, so I'm giving you both. So you can pick it up. While you pick it up, I'll put this for you on Blackboard. So that you have this version controlling kind of stuff is what I'm doing. So base plus goes commission. So no changes were done to base plus at all because it kind of worked with the same thing. I only created one more level. Okay, and now I want them to. So if I want them to, so I need these 2, hourly and salaried. And I'll do the tester with you. I've written much more in my tester, but I can't remember what I've done, so we'll come back to that. Okay, so I go here and I go Control V. Okay, now let's open the hourly employee. Right, now let's open the hourly employee. Keep in mind, an hourly employee is an employer. Right, so the is a relationship is inheritance, has a relationship is a composition. Composition is good in its own way, that it is loosely coupled. Inheritance has this problem of being very tightly coupled. And with tightly coupled comes this disadvantage that anything that is tightly coupled, changes in one directly affect the changes in another. The other class has to, since they're so close together, tightly coupled, it has to make changes. And it is recommended that classes be loosely coupled in an object-oriented environment. So here is the big question. Do I use inheritance because it is tightly coupled, or don't I use it? Like, there are two things. But again, I repeat, if inheritance is inherent in your application, then you must go with inheritance. But if you could avoid it, if you could do it some other way with composition and it works, then go for composition. But if it is inherent there, it's right there, then tightly coupled, you have to live with the tightly coupled. It will just take more maintenance. Okay, so what does hourly employee do? Extends employee again, right? Look at the picture that I gave you, or if you remember, this is what I started with when I came to class. So employee in italics, this is a class diagram for your information, which is showing you relationships. We've done class diagrams before, but we were only writing single classes. I think in composition, you draw broken lines instead of lines that I have here that are solid. When you show composition, you show broken lines, okay? So the employee is written in italics because employee is an abstract class. So abstract classes in class diagrams are written in italics. All these are concrete classes, and the arrows have to be read this way. Salaried employee is an employee. Commission employee is an employee. Base plus commission employee is a commission employee. That's how you have to read it. So arrows go from the subclasses to the superclass. Though they are called super, keep something in mind, they are more generic. So this is what is happening. So you start with a superclass whose code may be 10 lines. I'm just giving an example. The subclass may have 20 lines of code. So subclasses are going bigger in their code, but are becoming more specific. If you kind of think about it, they're becoming more specific. So you start from a generic class, which has less code, and you go on to classes that have more code, but are becoming more specific. So inheritance, though you would say, oh, inheritance means you always get more. It's not that. It's a different inheritance from how we see inheritance in our daily life, is what I'm trying to say. So you're going from generic to specific, but your code is increasing in size. Okay, keep that in mind when you do inheritance.
So we can do this all with also the composition?
You could. It could be an assignment for you. I tried it, right? But I want to give an assignment on inheritance, so I don't want to do that assignment. You could go the opposite, but then you're not practicing inheritance. You're doing composition, but it could. It was one of the exercises in the book where I picked up this example from. So I am working on it. I'm seeing how can I make it a good composition, right? It's not made for it, right? Because it's not made for it, but it was a challenge. They had given it as a challenge, so I'm working on it. And for once I thought I would give that as an assignment to you guys, but then it's not testing your inheritance quality, like inheritance technique. So I'm now looking for a good inheritance example where I say here, it could be open. I say create your own inheritances, but the problem with that will be you all will come up with different things, which is good, but one may have 2 instance variables and the other may have 10 instance variables. So then my marking will become difficult.
You make the abstract class.
I make the abstract class and I say this is there and now you can add more. So making assignments is not an easy job too, because then you have to think of everything that needs to be asked. It's difficult to do it, of course, but before I give it to you, I must be satisfied that it's a doable, good assignment, right? So anyway, I'll be there. But yes, a challenge exercise for this one is to change the inheritance into composition. So I kind of looked at it and I said, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it's such a pure inheritance there. But it is there. It has been given as a question. So if I do it, like right now, I'm more interested in finding an assignment for you. I'll let you know. I can't see it as a composition, but it's an exercise. Okay. So having said that, my hourly employee is extending the employee. As soon as I say extends, remember I have name and I have the social security number. I add 2 more instance variables to it. One, the wage, right? The hourly wage. And I give you notes here so that it makes you easy to understand what they are. And that's what I would expect from you also. As you declare your instance variables, give a short comment there. And hours, the hours worked in the week. So now it's doing weekly because that's how I think usually they are paid or whatever, but I'm going weekly now. Now I've created two final variables, three actually. One is for minimum hours that a person can work. That's 168 into 24 hours. That's the maximum hours, though I don't think that's how it works. There is a limit on how many you can work in a week, but 168 is coming from 24 multiplied by 7. Okay, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. And then overtime is available. So if you work overtime, the formula gives you more money, right? So if you, whatever is your wage into this, if you work overtime, it's 1.5 times into the wage, just so that you don't forget your normal writing of methods. Notice what do I do here? I take the 4 parameters. Again, I'm saying 4 because I have 4. Yes, Ravinder?
Only person can work overtime in the week because the maximum hours is 160.
Yeah, but he can work more than 40. So 40 says you can work this much, you get normal pay. More than 40, less than 168, you're paid 1.5 times. But you can go beyond 168. I don't think you can even go beyond 50 or 60, but that's what I just did the multiplication that you shouldn't be able to put it. So I'll do my validation. That's for my validation. Cannot be less than 0, cannot be more than 168 is my validation. Therefore, they are there. And I've started using constants. Zeros and ones are still okay. But when you start using magic numbers like 168 and over time 40, doesn't make a lot of sense in your code. So the constructor is simple. Call your super constructor, set your wage. So now these are places where you'll have to make changes. I don't want to do a set wage and I don't want to do a get wage. So we'll make change. Since my time is limited now, I'll kind of go through them. And so definitely I don't want to see set wage here. I want to see a validate wage here, right? And that validate wage will be a private method. And it is doing a what? Validating it. So returning nothing. It's called validate wage. Oh, I forget to take the advantage of. And there it is. And all it does is copy and paste. So I have the code, I just have to put it at the right place. So if your wage is greater than 0, you're good to go. And in this, I've just reversed it. I prefer the other way where I don't have to put an else, but there's nothing wrong in doing it. I've seen some students like to do it. Maybe that's how they think. If everything is correct, use it. Else throw an exception. So you can use either. You don't have to follow me of throwing the exception first. So there is your validate wage. I call it from the constructor also, and I call it from my set method also. I had it there, so it was easy to just copy it. Right? So it doesn't take a lot of time. So that's my set, get, and validate. Similarly, I'll have a validation for hours. So we'll say validate hours. And the validate hours. Oh God, so many spelling mistakes. Validate. Now, okay. And I'll do a insert code and say override. No, add property. Or generate, maybe generate. No. So should I say add property and it will add it? I don't know. I tried the insert. I could do an alt enter and it comes up. It gives me method is not available, but I haven't tried the other one. Okay, so once you have validate, except that it goes right at the bottom. Pick it up from there. Control X. Put it somewhere between the get hours one here or before it, wherever you like. And we have the code. So notice what I've done. If the hours are greater than minimum and less than maximum, I've set them as I haven't set them. That's what I've done. And put them in your validate hours. So code just needs to be moved. Right? I'll do this for the other class so that I can save time. So there's my validate hours. Remember to call it from your constructor and also and private. Don't forget private and private. Okay, both are private. And call it from your set hours also. Call it. Okay, so that's job is done. Now to calculate the earnings. What is this hours? What is this? Okay, there it is complete, right? So just move stuff. And again, I think I did a little bit here of commenting. I did commenting in my employee. I was being good when I did it in employee. I actually also did it in commission employee, the one that is on Blackboard. And then I said, it's too much work, like too much time, not work. Never, it's not a work. Putting comments is not a work, it's required. Now look at the get earnings. I've overridden it because it's an abstract method. And this is all I've done. If it is less than your overtimes, if you have worked less than 40 hours, just that's your wage, that's your salary, that's your earnings. Else what I've done is I've taken the overtime hours, the 40 I've multiplied by get wage, and the difference I've multiplied by 1.5. I think 1.5 should also be a constant. This is your overtime rate, right? So we'll do the overtime rate, because I mean, it makes, for me, it is making sense to us because I am telling you what it is. This is your overtime rate, 1.5 times. It's not declared, but it is. So I've done a simple math. You could do it whatever way you like. I've said if it is less than 40, just do the normal math, wage into get hours. And I've started using get methods now more in my calculations. Till now, I was only restricting it to my string, because the others I didn't do much work. But now I'm using it because it is recommended, because don't talk to the variables, just ask setter and getters them, even in the class itself. Else, what did I do? For 40 hours, I said, you have your normal wage. But for the rest of the hours, how did I do the rest? Hours minus 40 is my rest hours. I say get into wage into the overtime rate. So pick up that variable or that constant. And now that we have one, I'll try to use, oh, I don't have a child of it. Uh, 1.5. Would it be a good idea? I think it would be a good idea to make them static, right? Because constants are only required, like they're constants, you can't change them. So make them static. What isn't it like? Oh, yeah, time. The type is missing. Oh, this is a double. 1.5 is a double. Now, what's the use of a private static variable? Private static. Why don't I make my static variables as public? Oh, because I don't want to use them outside, but I can use them with class name. Think about it. What's the sense of private and public with static variables? Static means belongs to a class. Use it with the class name dot. If I make it private, can I use it outside? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to use it outside. Yes?
I think if you make it private, you can't use it in use of classes.
No, I should be, it's a class variable. I should be able to use it with class name dot variable, is my thinking. Don't you think?
You want to use them in the subclass if you want to call them in the subclass.
See, this is, let's do it in, because this has a child. Oh, you know what? Private has, employee is the father of all classes. Let's try to put one here. Let's try to put a private static variable here. Oh, what isn't it like? Oh, no, type. Oh, I always miss it. Okay. Now this is a private static variable. If it is, you have to use it with the class name, right? So with the class name, go to any one of them. Sometimes you have to check. It doesn't make sense. I'll just put it in the constructor just because it's easy. I'm kind of confused with my static variables. What was it called? Example. Oh, it's not even excessive. It's private, right?
It's before the superclass. The super ball.
Oh, so yeah, but no, you don't say super. You say the name of the class with static variables.
No, but before the super.
Oh, it's before the super call. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, it's private. Definitely, if it's private, it's not available outside at all. It's out of question. What about public? What is the disadvantage of making a class variable public? What do you think? We usually make our static variables public. Otherwise, they're useless, right?
Yeah, it's too many limiters.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's useless. If a class variable is private, then it's useless.
It doesn't matter. They were not able to change it. The other class, it will not be.
Yeah, and anyway, it's useless. I mean, making a class variable, a class final variable, static variable as private is useless. I won't write getters and setters for it. It's a final variable. Yeah, we don't make variables private ever. You're right. We shouldn't be. I mean, it makes no sense. So if it is public, then of course it can be used with the class name. Okay, so that at least. So we've never done that. So, and we shouldn't. So where were we? We were in the hourly one. So doesn't make sense to make them private. Like they're useless otherwise. They're useless, kind of. Yep, statics are usually made finals. And when you see a warning, what is it saying about the warning now? Missing Java. Okay, for all the things to say, it's saying you're missing Java docs. Okay. Right, so I've created a final overtime just because, as I said, I don't like to use magic numbers in my code at all. They make no sense. See, here they make sense. Minimum hours, maximum hours, overtime rate, they all make sense. The names should make sense. Don't call them XYZ, then they're as useless as anything. Call them good names and then they start making sense. Okay, so where were we? So let's come back. So I showed you how to do the get earnings. There it is. It's just simple math. I get the hours, compare it with overtime hours. If it is less, I give you just multiply the two. If there are more, I pay 40 hours, I pay for the normal wage. And for the rest of the hours, I give you an overtime rate. And again, what happens in toString? Oh, I've started putting hourly employee here. I've given a heading also, which is good. Now you can put a heading in the front, hourly employee. The first %S is a call to your super. Right? And then after that, it's the same thing, wages per hour and hours worked. So I'm just adding more, but yes, this is a good idea to add the name of the type of the employee. Commission employee, hourly employee would be good to do. And it's good. I think I can do that in other ones also. I did it here. And I'll again change my 25s to 30s just because I have it 30s in my other ones. I think the first one was a minus, the second one was a plus. Whatever, just to show you that it works. Since it is already done, I'm not removing it. So what will happen? The first %S is a call to your superstring. That's what you do. Then what do you have? Then you have wages per hour is coming in this heading. I hope 30 is enough. And then the wages are coming. I put a $sign to make it neater. Then hours worked is coming, and I've made it a 0.2F because I took it to be a double. I'm not sure if it is reality. I mean, you guys work. Can you work 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours like? Or do you can? Okay, then it's fine to be. I didn't know if you could work. I thought you always work complete hours, 1 hour, 2 hours. But to be on the open side, flexibility, I just made it a float. And that's what, like, when you're not sure, then it's always better to go bigger. Like bigger in the sense, just more general. Though you could have stuck with float also. Float is much smaller. It takes less number of bytes. So I wasn't sure whether hours could be integers or could it be float. So I just went with double, which again is just looking into, it's just saying it's more flexible. So there it is. Nothing much to do, right? Same concept. Add your new instance variables, write their getters and setters, validate it in constructor, call the super constructor, do the extra stuff you have to do, override the get earnings method and override the toString method. Not much work, right? So just because I have this heading here, you can add this in all your toString methods. Oh no, not in this one, can't do in this one. Then it will say, I could manipulate it, no big deal. I will. And then the last one. Same concept. The only extra thing it needs is the weekly salary. Right? So the person has a weekly salary now because we are going to add. So that means till now the gross sales, and we hadn't mentioned anything, but we are going weekly here. It could have been more, but number of hours in a week was easy to see. So add your new instance variable and again do the same thing, please validate it. Validate it. Once you validate it, create that method. And as soon as you have it, I've already done it. Weekly salary should be greater than 0. And add it to your validate weekly method. And then call your validate weekly method from both the constructor and your set methods. Hopefully you've done it so many times that you won't forget it now. Do not call overridable methods in your code. That's the rule. Do not call overridable methods in your constructor because we've seen what it does. If you override it, which you can, you didn't in any, we didn't because it didn't make sense to. But if you do, then you can have answers that you're not expecting. So don't write them. It's just better to do it this way, right? And it has a get earnings, and the earnings of this person are really simple. All it is a weekly salary. This person has a fixed weekly salary. In the toString, I've done the same thing again. I've shown the two superstring. I should start with a new line actually. I've shown the two per string. I forgot to put here. You can put that. What was it? This is a salaried employee. With the other ones, I'll have to be a little more careful because one is commission and one is base plus commission. So this is a salaried employee. We can start with the percentage N always. Oh, there we'll do it in a system print ln. So it's okay to do it here. So call your super constructor. Again, I'll kind of stick with 30 just because I did it there. And then show the person's salary, get earnings. Done. Right. So with inheritance, once you have your structure or your base ready, then it is just easy to extend classes. So we know how to create classes. Now comes the next job. What is polymorphism? We've been talking saying polymorphism is a direct result of inheritance. So I'll show you that too. That will take a little bit of work, so I won't, and I mean we can do it, right? So we'll stop here. This I haven't yet put on Blackboard, but I will. But we've taken care, we've created all our classes. All our classes are ready, except the tester. Now the tester is a little more complicated. I want to show you polymorphism now. Okay, so I'll place this also on for you guys on the though it is also on the other way, but I'll do it here also. So I'll add it here. And then we'll come back and do polymorphism and interfaces. Two more things left. I think you're doing good. The other section is a little behind. I don't know why. I can't remember what I did there that I didn't do it. Anyway, so here it is. You have it from me now. So let's go to Thursday. There you are, hourly. So with your validations, right? It's now validated with the right way, salaried. And there it is. Not sure why employee is coming as it's 3 there, but anyway. I have no clue. All the new ones are in the 3 level. The new ones are in the 3 level. The original that we did with the 2 levels first are in the 2 level. So because we changed it, I kind of put it in the trucks. So everything in the 3 level one is what you've done for this here. And in the 2 level, what you did for the first, which are not as important, but doing it with 2 was easier. Then I could just extend it. Now it was easy. I just showed you the process. Right. So keep in mind all that we've tried to learn. We've learned new access specifiers, abstract classes, abstract methods, calls, super calls, overridable methods. You have to just keep it in your head. Like it will come with practice, but just keep the concepts. We'll come back and do polymorphism and inheritance next week. Interfaces next week. And of course, an assignment should come up. That's the most important thing now. So I have to look for one.